I am so excited for my guest today. She is an author and did some really exciting things with her book, and I can't wait for you to meet her. Her name is Dee Bowden, and Dee, oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here today.
Patty, listen, it's my honor. Thank you so very much. I've been like a little kid all day with just reaching and reeking with excitement, in a good way, in a good way, a good way. I love talking about the
Good.
book, and I love making new friends, making new connections. And so, to all your audience, listen, we're about to have some fun. So, all right, Patty, it's your show. Let's go.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, Dee, will you just start off and just tell us a little bit about you?
Sure thing. So I'm Dee Bowden. I'm originally from Boston. I now live in the great state of Maryland. My fun facts are that I love Ferris wheels, smooth jazz, and great wines, both the red and white. Another cool thing about me is that I love hot air balloons, and so if y'all like outdoor stuff, yeah, hot air balloons, skydiving, parasailing, all those things. Those are my fun, relaxing things for sure.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I've done all those things too. They're
Nice.
amazing. And yeah, you talk about parasailing. I haven't done that in a long time, and I
Yeah.
think it's so much fun. I love that.
Me too. Me too. I think just the excitement of just getting in the harness and then watching the boat pull off and as they let the rope up, you're up in the air. And you're like, this is the coolest thing. And I did mine in the Bahamas. Where'd you do yours?
Oh, I was in Cancun.
Oh, nice. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. 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 Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So, this is so cool today because I just know a little bit about Dee's story. I don't know all of it. So I'm hearing it for the first time myself. So, I'm so excited. I think, like I said, I know some of the good parts. So I can't wait for you guys to do it. Dee, tell us a little bit about your book.
Sure. So collect the cash. Collect the cash is my journey of this. So if it's okay, can I tell the story of kind of the backstory of how I got to the book?
Heck yeah. Let's
Okay,
do it.
so how it goes like this. So what had happened was I used to work for a small IT company outside of Boston, where I'm originally from. If you ever worked in corporate, Patty, you know how it is. Usually there's like
Yeah.
welcome aboard. Here's your cubicle or your office. Here's your box, and jokingly your plant. And in my case, the small IT company with about 100 people, they said, listen, we have a collections team and we are owed $8 million in outstanding receivables. I'm like, y'all are owed how much? They said, yeah, we sold $8 million worth of IT services. We have a collections team, but they haven't been effective to get these set of accounts collected. So they said, your resume says you know how to collect money. I'm like, yep. Well, we're gonna hire you. Here's your list of accounts. You need to get to work. I'm a person of faith, so me and God had a short conversation. And when I came back, I said, okay, so business to business collections is four things: it's problem solving, it's customer service, it's gratitude, and the fourth, the most important thing, is relationship building. So I'm on the phone. Hey, this is D from such and such company. I call, start making my calls, start collecting the money. So in 60 days, I collect $6 million. So we start off with eight, I collect six, and then the unthinkable happens. The CEO of the company says, listen, let's come downstairs and have a chat. Now, if you've ever worked in corporate or worked in sales, salespeople get commissions. AR people get bonuses. So I'm thinking I collected 6 million. Oh, we about to get a great bonus. It's too much before
Yeah.
Christmas. I'm like, oh, we straight. Nope. Come downstairs and he says, listen, thank you so very much for everything you've done across all the departments. So that's order entry, order fulfillment, contracts, sales. Thank you all very, very much. We've made an executive decision. We're closing the company today, and y'all got 30 minutes to leave the building. This is 2 months before Christmas. This story started my journey on collected cash because think about it. I've worked for a small business that went out of business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are y'all serious? They're like, yeah, we're seriously closing the company and letting all y'all go. Now that happened to me over some years ago, but what happened was I kept, I don't know if you ever had this thing happen to you, Patty. You ever had something in life that really kind of jarred you, and it's just like you just really can't shake it? Well, that's what
Mhm.
happened with Collected Cash. I was talking to one of my buddies who had a radio show back in the day, and she says, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I collect money." She's like, "You mean like a debt collector?" Well, not exactly, because I said those people get a bad rap. I'm not like them. I'm in business. So I'm accounts receivable. So those of you who work in corporate or government or companies, there's usually sales and AP and AR and finance. And so I've always been in that space. And so she's like, "Well, come on the show and tell me what you do." So I told the same story, and she was like, "D, you're on to something," because she goes, "Small business owners don't know how to collect the cash." And I was like, but this isn't super sexy. She goes, there's nothing that's not sexy. This is important. So she said, I'm gonna need you to think about this. So about 4 years ago, she gave me a shot to be in her anthology. So I had a chapter in her book called How to Secure Your Cash Flow, super corporate, all the things. And everybody's like, what does that mean? So nobody understood how to secure your cash flow. So I went to a workshop and I was kind of posting, you know how you do your brain dump? So I had my
Yeah.
brain dump on the sticker and my buddy said, D, you collect the cash.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so he took all of my corporate ease and made it 3 words. And then from there, I was like, okay, collect the cash. Then I took my book coach had a webinar and she was like, you can write a book in 90 days or less. And I'm like, nah, no way. She was like, no, I'm serious. You can write a book in 90 days. So I showed up to her webinar. I listened to her pitch and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And she says, listen, I'm not saying you're going to have a full-fledged book in 90 days, but you'll have the idea, the outline, and the beginnings of a book in 90 days. And so I was like, okay, so I don't know if you ever played double dutch, but that's what we played. She and I played double dutch. So she was like, come on to take my class. I'm like, nope, come on, nope, come on, nope, yes. And so finally she won. And so I ended up taking her class. And when I started telling my story, and then she said, D, your why for collecting cash is that what happened to you what happened to you working for a small business, your why is that you never want to see another small business go out of business again because they have sales on the books, but there's no money in the bank. And that's
Yeah.
why collect the cash tagline. The sale is not complete until the money's in the bank. And that's how collect the cash began because she got me to see what I couldn't see, just telling my story. Because I'm a practitioner. I still have a career. I'm building a business and doing all the things. But she's like, D, you have a bigger why. Your legacy can be and will be that you leave a blueprint for business owners to collect the cash and learn how to have those hard conversations. What do you do if you ever get ghosted? How do you get your mindset ready to make those phone calls when you're like, oh my gosh, I don't like talking on the phone to customers. I don't want to have to ask them. She said, you have a really smooth way in doing this. And she said, give us your lessons. We need your lessons. So she worked with me, and then I had a writing coach and eventually a publisher. And the same thing, I told the same story. And they're like, we've never had anybody talk about this like this. And they're like, this is really, really good. So double dutching for a minute, and I finally said yes. And then once I did that, it was still okay, wrote the book. I finished the 90 days. I wasn't really sure I had a book, so I got a writing coach who said, okay, you have the outline for a book, but you don't really have a book. We need to do some more work. So we end up working through some things, and then I took a publishing class, and the publisher said, okay, I like your story. It needs some work. And so then finally she was like, okay, once you finally get this manuscript together, submit it to me again. And if I think it works, I'll publish it. And that's how it came to pass. But it was a journey, not just because I think what happens out here in these streets is that people say, oh yeah, you just write a book. And it's like, no, you gotta develop your characters, your story. There's
Yeah.
editing, there's line editing, developmental editing. Is it fiction, nonfiction? Who's it for? All the things. And it took me a minute to be comfortable to talk about the fact that I worked for this company, then went out of business, and then I tell them and talk about in the book, I went worked for another company and I got fired, and I was like, I'm not the type of person that usually gets fired. But the guy said, you don't know how to collect money. And I'm like, dude, I've been collecting money for government agencies for years.
Yeah.
But here was the thing. I didn't realize that working for that small company that went out of business, plus getting fired, plus talk about this story would actually really have value so many years later because you don't know that. You can see right behind me. I love to read. But I would
Yes.
have never thought that I would have a story that would be worth telling. But my book coach kept telling me, D, this you are small business owners, including herself at the time. She said, I'm your why. And if you'll trust me with this process, I promise you, you're gonna have something that will live on long after you're not here. And so that's how Come Collect the Cash exists today.
Oh my gosh, that is a fantastic story. I
Thank
love
you.
how you just took something negative that happened to you and really just turned it into a positive, and by writing a book. So you talked a little bit about how your book is for small business owners. What about maybe, let's just say there's individuals, they're not sure what they want to do, they need to work, maybe they don't have like a skill set that they've developed yet. Perhaps they're new in the workforce, or maybe they're just starting like fresh. They're leaving their old work life behind, want to do something new. Do you think your book would be useful to someone who might say, like, I want to collect cash for businesses, to maybe teach people how to do it also so that they can then make themselves employable?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I also first of all, Patty, great question. I think my book can teach you how to do that, but more importantly, I think the purpose of writing a book is to show your lessons. I would have never known from a practical standpoint that I had anything to teach because I'm a practitioner. Like I'm I'm the worker bee. I'm going to the office, I'm in the cubicle, I'm doing my thing. I would have never thought that all the lessons I learned about problem solving, like how to work with people on the phone, like all the money I collected, I did that over the phone. I built relationships, so I created 4 keys. I think y'all call it framework. So my framework is problem solving, getting to the what. I'm sorry, answer the question. What had happened was, because when you don't get paid, everybody wants to know what happened.
Yeah.
All they want is somebody to hear the story and answer the question. I learned about customer service. So in the IT company that I worked for, they delivered product and services, but reason they weren't getting paid, there was a lack of customer service. So on the AR side, I learned how to do customer service and resolve those problems. And then gratitude. Gratitude is one of those soft skills, but I
Yeah.
believe that really you say thank you. I mean, and my thing started with this. The first person who took my phone call, who answered my questions and cut the check, thank you. And if you've ever been in business, you probably have either received an invoice at the bottom that says thank you for your business, number one, or number two, you've received holiday cards. The company uses to send you a card that says, hey, thank you for being our customer. I just decided to take that principle and put it as a part of how to collect the cash. And then the fourth thing is building relationships. How did I get here today? I built a relationship with you. I talked to you and told you my story, and you're like, hey, I like your story and I like your energy. Okay, cool. But we built the relationship, obviously, before we got to do this conversation. But
Yeah.
those are the keys that I've used. Now, of course, there's all the financial things, but I talk about the softer side of AR because that's the part that people forget. Because I believe that most people think we can do everything in 144 characters, and you can't. Sometimes you can't solve everything with text. You just can't. 144 characters don't solve everything. Sometimes you got to go old school. You got to talk. And I just happen to learn that I'm funny and I like to engage people, and I come bearing solutions. And so I didn't learn all this until I started talking to my book coach, and she was like, "Dee, you have 10 plus years of experience. You've collected millions of dollars and all the things." She's like, "You have great lessons." No one had ever told me I had lessons from what I had gone through because I had never thought about it that way. I was like, okay, I went to work. This company went out of business. I went to work. I got fired. Okay, got it. I'm old school. You dust yourself off, got to get back up, let's go. Not realizing that I was learning valuable lessons that I would eventually put into a book and create a league magnet and a talk
Yeah.
and teach people these things. But that was the risk of being vulnerable to share what
Yeah.
happened to me and then flip it to say, okay, here's what I've learned. Here's how I can serve you. And like I said, I don't have kids, so collect the cash is my kid. This is my legacy. This is what I'm leaving behind
It's like that saying, it's not happening to you, it's happening for
for
you.
you.
So,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about how you marketed your book. How
Absolutely.
did you find readers for your book?
Well, I did a lot of lives. I did lives. I did podcast interviews. Any person
Yeah.
that anytime I saw somebody that had a podcast, I would talk to them about what I've done, and they're like, "Oh, this is a good story." And I guess too, being friendly, number one, and being polite and expressing gratitude. Every time somebody had me on their show, I usually sent them a copy of the book, and I always said thank you. It was pretty simple. I mean, I didn't have like and I did take a course. I had a buddy who actually did marketing. So I took her course, and so one of the things she encouraged me to do was, look for as many podcasts as possible, as often as I could find media, do that. And then the granddaddy of them all was, hey, the publishing company, said, okay, we have an opportunity for you if you're interested. We can launch your book and we can launch it on a billboard in Times Square. And so that was the big thing of going with this particular company. And it was like, are you serious? They're like, yeah. And so on April 20th, 2021, me and my bestie, we took the train to New York City, and we had to wait like pretty much all day because it's a split second. It comes up for like 2 seconds, and we took the pictures and we made a quick video. And I mean, I broke down and I cried because I was like, wow,
Yeah.
coming from working for this small business that went out of business to being on a billboard in Times Square, it was huge because it validated everything that I ever thought about in terms of collections and business and my 4 keys to it being on this billboard. And it's like, you really did that. Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
really real. if you go on my Facebook page, you scroll through, you'll see the pictures are definitely there. But more importantly, it was the opportunity to be validated and to be seen, in a huge way. And I mean, it's historic because I don't know how many authors. I mean, if you've gone the traditional publishing route, of course they have a whole marketing campaign, whole team. I went independent, went through an independent publisher, but the point was is that she saw my story, she saw the value, and it was like, okay, and this was a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I was like, yes, and we're going to take it, and we're going to do this, and I'm extremely grateful to her for her believing in me and saying yes to my story and yes to the book and yes to publishing it.
So if you could go back and give yourself advice whether while writing the book or, going through the publishing process or marketing it, what would you go back and tell yourself?
One, I would tell myself, don't double dutch so much. And what that means, a lot of people are like, what's double dutch? It means jumping rope. But what it meant was, I probably could have gotten into the game earlier if I believed that I had a story of value. I doubted. I had doubts, so I let my doubts control me until my book coach kept saying, "Come in here, come take my class. Trust me." And it took a minute. It took a minute for me. So I would say the first thing I would go back and say was, okay, if you were going to do this again or do another book, trust the process, because you don't get to celebrate until you actually go through the process. The reason we're talking today is because I did the work. I did
Yeah.
the work. The second thing I would say to myself is, hey, have some more fun. I was so nervous about this. It took me a minute. It took until I think until everything was actually done that I finally got to relax, because you know how it is. You have a book, it becomes your baby. You're obsessed with this thing. You want all the fonts right and the left justified
Yeah.
and all the things, and the cover, and oh my gosh, and the first time you see your draft and you're like, oh my gosh, this doesn't make sense. Oh, I was trying to convey this and I didn't say that, and all the things. So you're overcritical. I would say, one, stop being so critical, and you have to be able to submit to leadership. One of the reasons I think I was blessed that I had a great book coach, a great writing coach, and a great publisher is that they're experts in their field. I'm not. I'm an expert in recovering money. So I had to learn to submit to their leadership and trust them and trust the process and trust that if I could, if as we worked together and did the work, that if I did my part and then gave it to them and let them do their part, when we finished, we would have a finished product, which is what you see behind.
Ah. Have you ever thought about taking your book and then turning it into a course, whether it be like a live group coaching course or something that's, you could do live group coaching and then turn it into a pre-recorded program? Is that anything that you've ever talked about, or do you have something like that now?
To answer your question, Patty, I have thought about it. I started working on something like that a little over a year ago, and then when I started working on it, I didn't quite get all the pieces yet. So I think there's a couple things I don't fully understand about digital courses. So I either A, need to take a course so I understand, like, how does this work, and then B, I think there's probably some more detail I need to put into it, so it will make sense to a business owner to say, okay, I want to learn how to collect the way you collect. So I probably have to add a couple things. But yeah, I thought about it. So I was like, okay. And then along with that, there's the how do you sell? Now, I do lives, and I mean, I know how to do a live and how to do a podcast, but I haven't quite figured out if I was going to do the digital course, how would I sell it? And I think there's probably some things, there's some pieces to that process that I have to learn, or better yet, who's the expert who knows how to do this and can teach me how to do this? Because hey, I'm good with my lane, and I love to learn, but I'm also getting better with, okay, I don't have to figure out everything. There are people that are experts in their lane. It's like, how do you collaborate with them to get better? So yeah.
Yeah. So my recommendation for you is you have a website for your book, and that's dedicated to your book. And what I love to do with my clients is we'll put a button so that people, can buy the book. They buy the book, they come back to that book page, they put their name, their email, and their order number in. So now you've confirmed that they've actually purchased the book. And
Hmm.
then what happens, there's a second step that happens. So as soon as they hit submit, they submit their information, then there's another page that comes up. And then that page that comes up is then the offer or introduction to your course. And that's one
Okay.
of the things I love to tell authors is this is how we now make money with your book because and actually that is Aurora Gregory's saying. So we both are mutual friends
Yes.
with Aurora and she actually says that, you it's difficult for authors to make money from their book because the
Right.
ROI is so low. You make a few
Yes.
dollars. And you'd have to sell thousands and thousands of books if you're going to live
Absolutely.
off of book sales alone. It's just, it's a $15, $12, $15, $20 product. We're not
Yeah.
talking,
Yeah.
a product that
True.
costs
True.
several $100s and you've got a 50% margin on it, right?
Right.
So yeah, so that's where Aurora's like, yeah, you can make money with your book. And I said, can I use that? And she says, you can use it. And so, yeah,
Yes.
I send people to a book funnel, I like to call it. We have a link to buy the button.
Hmm.
Consumers click the button, they order the book, they come back, put their name, email, order number in, click
Hmm.
submit, and then there's a page that pops up and it's called a one-time offer. And that's where we present them with that next thing, whether it be a workbook or a course, it could be coaching, it could really be anything you want. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
have to be like any one thing. But now, because your reader, you've already got their information, and now giving them the opportunity of, hey, I know a lot of people like to learn differently, and I've included some
True.
things in the course that aren't in the book, and you can price the course reasonably.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, yeah, it's a great way for people to say yes. They're already sold, they've already purchased the book. So now
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Now I've got the book and course that go together and, one complements the other. And so yeah, that's a great way to try to upsell to that next thing. So
Okay. Well, I guess we'll be talking about that. Nice. Excuse me.
Oh my gosh, Dee, this was so great. I really enjoyed listening to your story.
Thank
I
you.
just love it. It's like from being fired to having, a presence in Times Square,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
talk about like, oh my gosh, what
It's
a
like it's
journey.
basically it's like from beauty. I can't say it this way. It's from beauty to ash. Yeah, from ashes to beauty.
Oh,
Because being
yes.
able to, and I think that's the thing. And if I was going to leave anything for your audience, would be this. All of us, I said in the beginning of our conversation, all of us have had something in life that has jarred us.
Yeah.
Mine just happened to be that this company went out of business and I got fired, and it was just like, okay, lessons learned. But here's the thing: if you're able to take a writing class or a writing class on how do you get to tell your story, so that it actually has a framework. That was the blessing that my book coach gave me. She was like, you need a framework. Like, how do you do what you did? Because I was like, I just do this. She's like, no, 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 you have a process. And I was like, oh. And then, oh, that was the other thing. And she goes, you do affirmations. I'm like, yeah. And
Mm.
that was the part of the story I forgot to say, was that affirmations is part of how that's a part of how I turn my life around. And there's the affirmations in Collect the Cash. I'm a sports person, so I have what's called the collection zone. So any of y'all like sports, we just finished the NBA finals, but the way I talk about collections is there's a pregame, game day, and postgame. Pregame is your mindset. How do you get yourself in the mindset to make the phone calls, collect the cash, deal with the issues, all the things? Game day is you just show up. You're ready to play. You're ready to engage. And then post game, I believe in celebrations. I believe for every dollar, $5, $1,000, how much money you collect, you need to celebrate. Whether you have clappers, balloons, confetti, I don't care what you do. Starbucks, do something. And here's the thing: what that does for you is it builds momentum. And that's how I learned that, when I celebrated every time I collected money, I celebrated that. And I was like, oh, then I realized, okay, I have a framework. I do problem solving, customer service, gratitude, relationship building, celebration. That's how I collect my money. And I'm like, oh yeah, we celebrate every dollar that comes in here. Like, sure. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference.
Well, I live in Colorado, so go Nuggets.
Yes, exactly. Congratulations, y'all. That's what's up. I know that was a great game. It was a great series. It was exciting.
It
Nice.
was, yeah. Dee, as we wrap up here, will you just tell us how people can learn more about you? And I know you also have a free gift for the audience as well.
Sure do. First off, again, Patty, thank you so very much for allowing me to be a part of the Better Book Launch podcast. Number two, my free gift for your audience is called 5 Tips to Collect the Cash. You can go
Mhm.
to bit.ly/ collect the cash 5 tips. So that's bit.ly/ collect the cash 5 tips. To get an autographed copy of Collect the Cash, please visit www.collectthecash.biz/book. That's www.collectthecash.biz/book.
Oh my gosh, Dee, thank you so much for your time today. Some great lessons to learn. I love gratitude and affirmations, adding those pieces into it, I too have benefited from that same thing. And yeah, it's just knowing that, listen, we all face some tough times.
For sure.
And I now, as I'm getting older, learning that, what, these are really opportunities not only to learn something, but to really kind of turn it into something better. There is opportunity there when tough times happen. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah, I just loved hearing that.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
that's where the lessons comes from. Because if you think about it, Patty, every person that we've ever admired, they've gone through things, and
Yeah.
usually after they've gone through things, they've created something. That Where do you think all the great music comes from? A lot of the
Yeah.
great songs we listen to is somebody had some kind of heartbreak, challenges, trauma, whatever. They sat down at the piano, the guitar, the flute, whatever. They wrote a note, and then they wrote a song. As you know, we're still jamming to those songs years later. Same thing, for music, art, all the things. But
Yeah.
take the here's the last point. Take the lessons, turn it into something good, and then go find some people that you can go serve.
Uh, that's a great note to end on. Thank you, Dee, for your time today.
You're welcome.
Oh.